Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to today's webinar, How Cyber Threat Intelligence from the Dark and Deep Web Can Yield an ROI of 311%. My name is Omer Karmin. I'm the Vice President of Intelligence at Cybersixgill, where I'm responsible for directing the methodology behind our cyber threat intelligence solution. In today's session, we will talk about cyber threat intelligence and the dark web, and we will review an outstanding Forrester research regarding the total economic impact of Cybersixgill's threat intelligence solution. I have the honor and the pleasure to introduce our two distinguished speakers for today. Our first speaker is Merit Maxim. Merit is VP and Research Director at Forrester, where he leads a team of analysts who provide research and advisory services that address the needs of security and risk professionals. His team focuses on identity and access management, endpoint security, threat intelligence, and vulnerability management strategies and technologies. Previously, Merit was a principal analyst on the security and risk team, focusing on identity and access management, best practices and technologies, as well as physical security and IoT security. Our second speaker is Eric Hall. Eric is a Forrester Total Economic Impact Consultant. Prior to becoming a Forrester TEI consultant, Eric has worked in various finance and IT roles, including more than 5 years each with 2 Fortune 100 firms and over 10 years in a leading role at a business intelligence software firm. Eric has led business intelligence consulting engagements in manufacturing, supply chain, financial services, retail, healthcare, higher education, state and local government, and telecommunications. So let's get started. And before I leave the floor to Merit, just a quick reminder for our audience, you are more than welcome to send us questions using the chat or Q&A functions here on Zoom or via email. We will tackle these questions at the end of the presentations. And with that in mind, Merit, the floor is yours.
Great. Thanks, Omar. Pleased to be with you. And thanks, everyone, for joining. So as he said, I'm going to talk a little bit some general trends about threat intelligence and kind of dark web and kind of how those two interplay and the value that those provide before turning it over to Eric. We'll talk a little bit more about the specific methodology that Forrester uses to kind of calculate the ROI of using a commercial offering like Cybersixgill to help with threat intelligence, and then turn it back over to Omar to talk a little more about the Cybersixgill solution. So I'll kind of give you the high level stuff before moving on to Eric, and we'll move on to the next slide and kind of introduce you the, kind of goes without saying, right, we all know, and you're likely all on this webinar because cyber attacks are a concern for you in your organization. There's no shortage of daily announcements about attacks taking place. And organizations now know that this is no longer something that's purely the purview of IT. The cyber attacks affect your overall business, how you interact with your customers, how you maintain relevance and differentiation in the marketplace. And resiliency is a key aspect of that, and making sure your business is able to withstand if you get hacked and minimize the disruption to your employees and your customers. And so we all need to improve our cyber defenses. And threat intelligence becomes a very important tool in that quest, because it helps provide indicators or information about potential pending attacks or other things that may exist out there. And you can hopefully react against those and put your organization better able to defend against it and minimize the disruption from those kinds of attacks. Next slide. So dark web, we've probably all heard about it. Some people don't necessarily understand what it is, but it is kind of a parallel universe to the kind of public internet that we're all familiar with. And basically, based on what people said, it makes up about kind of 5% of the total internet in terms of sites and traffic. But it is essentially a gathering place for nefarious activities. That's why it's called the dark web. There really isn't a lot of good things you can find on the dark web, but for criminals or hackers, there's lots of things that they can find in the dark web. And so it does require using VPN and using something like a Tor or a specific browser and kind of a certain hardware configuration in order to actually access it. But once you're able to access the dark web, there's a wide range of things that you can find. Certainly, there's a lot of identity-related information at your tips. Could be credit card information, could be personal data that you want to use for identity theft or insurance fraud. There also are a range of zero-day exploits against various systems that can either be found for free or can be purchased if you're looking to actually launch an attack against a specific system. And you can also you can rent botnets as a service. So if you actually want to ramp up a large group of servers to actually launch a distributed denial of service attack against something, that's on the dark web as well. So needless to say, none of this stuff is particularly good, but it's important to be aware of what is on there, and particularly to make your executives understand, because they may hear about the dark web and think that have misconceptions about what actually is in the dark web. From an enterprise standpoint, one of the challenges is that the dark web can be a useful thing to monitor, but it does require some special skills, and as I said, some dedicated infrastructure to actually extract the data. And it does require some growing level of sophistication to actually search the dark web and also to do analysis on it. And so there often is it's a fairly manual process. A lot of companies, there may only be one or two individuals who actually are authorized to do dark web research, and so it's not necessarily scalable and it's not very automated, and so that limits what you can do with that. So when we actually talk about what is threat intelligence, this is, in our definition, it's the assessments of the intent, capabilities, and opportunities of threat actors in response to stakeholder requirements. And threat intelligence is used to inform business decisions and reduce risk from physical and cyber threats. The key word here is that it's used to inform business decisions, not just technology decisions. So the threat intelligence is the way that you as a business can better operate and withstand and respond to attacks or threats against your organization. Next slide. So some data from our various security surveys that we do annually at Forrester, when we actually look at what are some of the top IT security priorities, this is taken last year. Threat intelligence actually ranked very, very high, and certainly with the pandemic and the push to remote work, there's a whole new range of kind of threat dynamics that are at play here, and organizations are realizing that threat intelligence is an area that they need to better invest in, and this is reflected in this data point. Next slide. And then we actually look, there's wide types of threat intelligence. When we actually look at what are some of the types of threat intelligence that are most important for organization, certainly the cyber ones are the most important. Things like vulnerability risk, understanding zero-day exploits or what systems are out there, it could be compromised, are important, but the general kind of cyber threat intelligence remains the highest things. Other things like, say, executive protection or, say, physical security, those are a little bit lower priority. For one, executives aren't traveling as much as they were, and physical offices aren't open at the extent they were prior as well. So those are lower priority. This gives you a relative sense of across the spectrum of types of threat intelligence, which ones are the higher priority for the typical large enterprise. And then another thing that's important to note here is we've seen over the last 3 years a general increase in the number of actual threat feeds that organizations are actually subscribing to. And again, this is in response to the growing sophistication of attacks, and organizations being aware that they need not just a single feed in order to if it's a specific area that they're concerned about. And so this shows that whether it's commercial threat intelligence, whether it's open source things that may be freely available, or whether it's things like ISACs or information sharing communities that you belong to, whether it's regional, vertical industry based, but this gives you a sense of the kind of continued growth of the need for threat intelligence, and why companies like Cybersixgill are playing an important role in helping companies better build their cyber posture against growing cyber attacks. Just kind of close it out before I turn over to Eric. So it's important when we talk about threat intelligence, there really are kind of three levels of intelligence. There's kind of the tactical, that's kind of what you would see at a daily basis in your SOC, or what the IR team would be involved with. And then the operational is the one that has a little bit more higher level impact. And then the strategic, this is the kind of intelligence that you actually would be sharing with senior managers or people outside the IT organization. And so it's important to understand that there are different audiences for intelligence, and therefore how you articulate and communicate that varies, because obviously at the strategic level, you can't assume that they're going to have a deep understanding of threat actors or the dark web or various cyber capabilities. And so that the way you communicate that has to be adjusted accordingly. And when we look at the four kind of primary qualities that really define good threat intelligence is completeness, so that it kind of covers all the bases. It's accurate, so you have a high level of confidence that the underlying intelligence is good. It's relevant not just to your organization, but more specifically to your own environment, and is timeliness, right? So it's something that is you can act on now, not something that may have happened 6 months ago or something that might happen in the future, something that has an immediate impact or potential impact on your business in the immediate future. And really, these are, as you look at kind of threat intelligence and as you analyze your feeds, these are kind of the 4 things you should be assessing any intelligence to understand if it is in fact worth sharing if it meets these criteria. And then ultimately, finished intelligence, there's this move beyond just the feeds themselves, but how the actual taking the feeds and then, like say it's a strategic intelligence, how that intelligence is in fact curated into something that can be shared broader. And so there's the collection, there's some processing, there's analysis, and then ultimately there's the dissemination. And then it is a complete closed loop, because the dissemination may in fact yield further queries or questions from the organization that you can then feed into your or improve your collection plan. So maybe there's a newer threat or newer area that was not as on your radar that now is a higher concern, and so you can adjust your collection plans accordingly. So it's important to kind of understand this full life cycle of threat intelligence, and that it's not just a feed that just dumps say indicators of compromise in your socket. There's a lot more to threat intelligence than just the raw data that's coming into your environment. Pretty clear if you're using the kind of dark web monitoring or solution like Cybersixgill. I mean, there's a lot of benefits. One is certainly the efficiencies that come from the labor productivities by removing manual processes and automating things. That certainly is a real benefit. You're also hopefully going to reduce your overall cyber threats by getting better insight into the potential attacks that are most at risk to your organization. You're going to probably be able to better respond to security incidents. You're going to probably help on audits, and you're just generally speaking going to overall reduce threats to your organization while improving time. And so that's where a solution like Cybersixgill comes into play as really helping give you these quantifiable benefits that you get out of monitoring things like the dark web. I think that was my portion. So sorry for kind of going quickly, but just want to kind of set the stage before turning over to the rest of the team to talk more specifically about Cybersixgill and their offering around threat intelligence. So take it away.
Thank you, Merit, for setting the stage and explaining the state of play, both in the market and the cybercrime underground. And as you all know, the cybercrime underground is kind of our bread and butter in Cybersixgill. And for those of you who meet us for the first time, our mission statement is basically to help organizations to automate the process of cyber threat intelligence. It starts from collecting the data, as Merit said, into crunching it and using it to supercharge basically every security stack and security decision within it. So Merit was talking about the importance of data and dark web intelligence in the broader cybersecurity organization. And we believe that it is indeed one of the biggest economies out there when you're talking worldwide. We are talking about an economy of around quite a few hundreds of billions a year. And we try to figure out what does it means, the economy of the dark and deep web. So we did a little exercise and we tried to see what happens on the dark and deep web within a minute. And those are results. And I think that the results were quite staggering. I mean, every minute, more than 600 credit cards are being offered for sale, which means more than 25 million credit cards that are sold every month. Every minute, 130 malware pieces are being shared, which is around 2 malware pieces every second. And last but not least, every minute, more than 3,000 malicious chats are posted on Telegram, which is close to 5 million chats a day. So naturally, it poses quite a challenge for many organizations that we at Cybersixgill are helping to solve. This explosion of data means that organizations often base their risk decisions, security decisions on obsolete data. It means that they take security decisions based on irrelevant data. It also means that they have a very costly and inefficient CTI organization if they chase manual processes, and naturally with problematic ROI. And it means that they are overwhelmed with the amount of data. They can't really easily correlate between different pieces of the puzzle. They can't really link between operations on different teams. And they basically have something along the lines of balkanization or clusterization. So that's why we are basically here in the market. Everything that we do starts with a very powerful data lake. We collect more cybercrime data than anyone else in the market, both when it comes to markets, forums, chats, everything that you could think when it comes to an interactions between threat actors. Let me just say that when others speak of millions of data points, we use billions of data points as our metric or as our reference for defining how comprehensive we are. Our collection is much faster, and it allows us to detect incidents basically in real time. And that means that while others would find or understand that an incident has happened, you would only get it when the threat already was materialized. So as Mary said, the timeliness here is super critical. And all of this huge data lake is packaged in a way that organizations can use and digest it. It could be via our data feeds, which include a unique set of indicators of compromise, contextual and fully automated, both of IPs, hashes, domains, everything basically that a modern SOC needs to perfectly utilize their security stack. Let's call it the pulse of the cybercrime underground. Our customers can also use our data and analytics to prioritize CVEs or other vulnerabilities. We base our scoring, we base our prioritization recommendations on underground traction, on underground interactions, on actual activities of threat actors. Our customers can also investigate and slice and dice on the raw data in order to support any use case whatsoever. It could be fraud detection, mitigating cybercrime or ransomware attacks, enriching threat hunting operations, or supporting well-established MSSPs or consultancies. Basically, every use case that you could think of around cybersecurity or physical security, we probably can support it. And of course, pairing our feeds and investigative portal together enable our customers to experience the full extent of the potential of automated threat intelligence. Threat intelligence that is both contextual, but also enables other parts of the broader organization, the security stack, to be supercharged, hence improving ROI, of course, which would be the case of this presentation. And it probably enable you or will enable you to supercharge any one of our strategic partners in the field of SIEM, SOAR, XDR, endpoint protection, vulnerability management, and other fields. Whatever you probably have on your security stack, we are already integrated into it in a very easy plug and play. So this seemed to be a very good time to yield the floor to Eric, who will discuss the total economic impact of Cybersixgill. Eric, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Omar. Hi, everyone. I'm very happy to share the experiences of two Cybersixgill customers with you today. I was the TEI lead on the total economic impact study that Cybersixgill commissioned Forrester to do on their threat intelligence solution for the deep and dark web. So the agenda is, I just did an introduction. What is a TEI? To make sure you know what one is if you've never seen a TEI before. Executive summary for this study, the customer's journey, and the study results. Then we'll move to a question and answer for the overall presentation today. Note that this presentation provides highlights from the Forrester TEI study. To learn the details, I recommend that you download the study from Cybersixgill's website. For those of you new to Forrester's total economic impact studies, let me summarize what they are. Companies have been coming to Forrester for over a decade to provide an independent confirmation of what they hear from their customers on the benefits that they are seeing from their solutions. Our studies go beyond a total cost of ownership or return on investment study to share the journey of the customers, including how a solution makes them more agile in handling risks. Next slide, please. Okay, let me explain our approach towards completing the study. We reviewed content provided by the client and interviewed internal stakeholders to prepare us for customer interviews. For this study, we interviewed 2 Cybersixgill customers. From the interviews, we developed a financial model representing one of the 2 organizations. We wrote a thorough 25-page study about the financial results as well as the stories behind the results, including many quotes from the interviewees. In this study, we also tell the story of both customers. Next slide, please. Okay, I want to read a quote from the second customer, which is a multi-billion-dollar corporation. The dynamic vulnerability exploit score has been intriguing from multiple aspects because of the way it tracks, evaluates, and provides information on vulnerabilities and threats. While our other tools provide you with just number score, Cybersixgill provides a score and shows you that in the last 30 days, the company has been mentioned 348 times on the internet, social media, dark web forums, and it is trending up. We can see that something is a potential threat, a strong potential threat, or an actual threat. It supplies context and gives you a temporal view. Note that both customers spoke of Cybersixgill's use of machine learning to identify vulnerabilities with the context and support of its conclusions. Next slide. Okay, now we're going to go to the financial results. The financial results are based upon a cybersecurity consultancy that has over 100 cybersecurity analysts performing security strategy, managed security, incidents response, and penetration analysis globally. The TEI for this organization had a return on investment of 311%, benefits of $1.6 million, and a net present value of $1.2 million over 3 years, as well as a payback period of less than 6 months. Let's discuss the 2 interviewed organizations in more detail. Let's go back a slide. Thank you. Okay, now go forward, sorry. Okay, so let's go through there we go. Okay, as noted on the last slide, the financial analysis was based upon the experiences of a cybersecurity consultancy. The interviewee is a cybersecurity practice manager with over a decade of experience in dark web forum access and analysis. Despite having over 100 cybersecurity professionals around the world, the organization did not have the capacity to meet dark web analysis demand within their current practices. The second company, a large corporate client, recognized that it lacked the tools, access, and skills and processes to effectively perform dark web analysis to protect the company. Next slide, please. Okay, let me go over the key challenges that the primary customer faced. The cybersecurity consultancy had a successful dark web sub-practice, but couldn't expand to meet surging demand because too much of the practice was tied to dark web related skills that only the interviewee had. As he shared, getting access to dark websites is as much an art as a science. Extracting data on an ongoing basis without getting shut down is a developed skill. Analyzing dark web data with their previous tools and processes were not easily transferable to other cybersecurity analysts without specialized training. The consultancy was also not able to provide real-time offerings due to a lack of tools to automate extractions and provide real-time alerts. Next slide. Let's go over the primary customer's key requirements towards selecting a dark web analysis tool. The first requirement represents a wish to have real-time access to dark web data, as well as access to more forums than they previously had. The second requirement is crucial. The interviewee was confident that other cybersecurity analysts would be able to analyze dark web data with their current skill set with the right data access and tools. The final two requirements basically represent having the right data access and tools that would allow them to effectively perform dark web analysis. Next slide. Let's go over the key results that the cybersecurity consultant interviewee shared. The interviewee spoke of major labor productivities ranging from 25 to 90% reduction in various analyses. Note once again that the interviewee is already highly skilled at dark web analysis, which shows the significance of these productivities. In addition to the productivities, Cybersixgill enabled cybersecurity analysts to do dark web analysis without learning new skills. This was a significant benefit, allowing major dark web analysis expansion without major training. The interviewee also spoke of the improved timeliness of data and the breadth of sources of data, both very valuable in doing high quality dark web analysis. Finally, Cybersixgill allowed the consultancy to expand their dark web practice considerably due to all the benefits that Cybersixgill provides. Next slide, please. Okay, the cybersecurity practice manager described all of this very effectively with this quote. Quote, before Cybersixgill, I was the only cybersecurity team member analyzing underground criminal forums. The barrier was the skill, art, and effort of obtaining the data. Cybersecurity analyst skills are all that are necessary to interpret this information. Cybersixgill provides the data in a timely manner and provides an easy-to-use search engine for the dark web. We quickly went from 1 analyst in this space to 10 analysts. Depending on the purpose, the work effort went down 25 to 90%. So shortly after implementing Cybersixgill, the consultancy immediately went to 10 analysts able to work independently on the dark web analysis and reporting. Also, automation, alerts, search, integration, machine learning, and other Cybersixgill capabilities dramatically reduce the work effort to perform effective dark web analysis. Next slide. Now I'll share the second customer journey. The second customer, a multi-billion-dollar corporation, also found Cybersixgill to provide major benefits. Similar to the cybersecurity consultancy, the interviewee spoke of major productivities and the ability to move from reactive to proactive dark web analysis. In addition to having access to much more dark web data, he noted that they loaded data into their threat intelligence platform, enabling further data integration and the use of existing tools. The interviewee spoke of a significant improvement in their dark web analysis maturity, adding that their most recent audit had no negative findings related to Cybersixgill. Finally, Cybersixgill's DVE scores with associated content has been instrumental in shifting them to act proactively on a high priority vulnerabilities. Next slide. Okay, let me read a quote from the global threat intelligence lead for the large corporation. I don't think it would be economically or technically possible to provide the access and value that Cybersixgill brings. It would take many more people and years to cultivate. Its tools and capability provide a great value. Using a crew metaphor, the combination of our Intel platform, Cybersixgill Dark Feed, and Cybersixgill Portal has us now rowing in unison, moving quickly in the right direction. The interviewee was very glad that they did not go down the path of building out a complete dark web team without a tool like Cybersixgill. He also spoke to the Cybersixgill enabling a process for dark web analysis that moved them to a much higher maturity level than they had previously. Next slide, please. Let me read another quote from the global threat intelligence lead, this one about where they were prior to implementing Cybersixgill. Our TI efforts were very reactionary, task-focused, based upon research requests. Our efforts were manual in nature, so we didn't have automatic processes where we had set up assets, keywords, domains, etc. It was time-consuming, taking up over a third of the time of our cybersecurity team. We were relying on what connections the team had from a personal perspective, what forums they had access to, and what trusted circles they were in. In short, the interviewee described his organization's prior state as performing time-consuming manual processes that were reactionary and limited on forum access. Next slide. So let's go into the 4 financial benefits that were associated with a cybersecurity consultancy. The largest benefit and most relevant to any cybersecurity organization is the avoidance of staff expansion to meet growing dark web threat intelligence demand, valued at $648,000 over 3 years. The second benefit is the contribution of dark web components to other cybersecurity offerings, valued at $190,000 over 3 years. The next benefit is contribution from new dark web offerings of $414,000 over 3 years. And the final financial benefit is contributing critical dark web analysis to broader cybersecurity offerings of $318,000 over 3 years. Next slide. So let's dig into these 4 benefits. The first benefit is avoiding staff expansion to meeting growing dark web threats at around $650,000 over 3 years. Let me begin with the quote. Quote, Cybersixgill lowers the skill requirements somewhat, but analysts still need to know cybersecurity methodologies. Its major benefit is that we don't need analysts that have access, machines, accounts, and everything on the dark web. Now they use all their cybersecurity skills without having to worry about getting the data. So in short, Cybersixgill provided both organizations with a shortcut to getting access to integrated dark web data from a vast number of sources in near real time, as well as the tools to perform effective analysis of the dark web data without needing specially skilled dark web analysts. Neither interviewee felt that they could accomplish what Cybersixgill provides them, such as breadth of dark web forum data, near real-time access to dark web data, and powerful tools that empower the cybersecurity analyst to perform dark web analysis. As noted previously, the cybersecurity practice manager said that they are doing more than previously with productivity of 25 to 90% based upon the analysis being performed. Next slide, please. The next benefit is contributions as components of other offerings of nearly $200,000. The cybersecurity practice manager said that other cybersecurity analysts have been adding dark web components to their cybersecurity activities, leading to more business. The demand for these add-ons had grown to the point that work had to be turned down, which meant lost revenue opportunities. An example of dark web use case is described in this quote. We'll set up monitoring for a client with an active breach. We can notify them when their data is posted. This frequently will be their source for identifying what was taken. We will help them determine PII and IP exposures. They will know what to report, and they will be able to prepare for the legal implications, brand threat, and media attention to come. Next slide, please. The third benefit is the contribution to new offerings at over $400,000. The cybersecurity practice manager said that he was previously comfortable that his organization could provide numerous new offerings if they empowered their current cybersecurity analysts with constant access to dark web data, machine learning-based alerting, automation of tasks, and better search and reporting capabilities. Cybersixgill has exceeded his expectations, and they are still adding new use cases. He described it this way, quote, phase 1 of using Cybersixgill was to spread the deep web and dark web threat intelligence work from just me to 10 of us. We are now in a scale-up phase, adding Cybersixgill offering to broader cybersecurity reports and creating additional offerings. Next slide, please. The final financial benefit is the contribution of using Cybersixgill-based analysis as a differentiator at over $300,000. The cybersecurity practice manager spoke of growing demand over time related to large deals with enterprise customers of the cybersecurity practice due to the growing awareness that dark web vulnerabilities are significant, getting worse, and beyond the typical SOC ability to handle it. Next slide, please. So there are unquantified benefits that are significant here. The first is that end client benefits are not included in the study and likely very significant, preventing breaches, identity theft, etc. The cybersecurity practice manager was not able to speak to the benefit of their end customers of the cybersecurity practice. If available, it is likely that it would have been one of the top financial benefits. The second unquantified benefit is eliminating the need for a dark web team within the cybersecurity organization. This benefit is significant in many ways based upon the organization involved. Things like global coverage, 24/7 coverage, cross coverage, demand fluctuations, flexibility of analysts' assignments are easier to handle by not needing a dedicated dark web team. The third unquantified benefit is that Cybersixgill meets the existing Cybersix team's dark web analysis requirements. Both interviewees are confident they are effectively covering dark web vulnerabilities. Next slide, please. Okay, sorry, that's correct. The associated cost with the cybersecurity practices use of Cybersixgill is $382,000. The cybersecurity practice manager evaluated numerous options as he described in this quote. We looked at different vendors, but Cybersixgill was the best match. One vendor had a better price, but they only supply data. Others supply analysis services and have a much higher price point. Cybersixgill gives us data fast from key forums and facilitates our doing analysis quickly the way that we want it done. And that's a very important statement there. First, there was an option for a dark web data provider. It was less expensive, but there were no associated tools. So new skills would be required from the cybersecurity analysts. At the other end, there are the analysis services, which provide dark web reporting. The practice manager found this unacceptable because they were more expensive and reports might not be timely. And he was comfortable that the organization's cybersecurity analysts could do the same quality work or better, and it would provide the focus areas that they felt were most appropriate for their customers. Next slide. So to repeat, summary of what we discussed before at the beginning is the TE findings for this organizations were a return on investment of 311%, net present value of $1.2 million over 3 years. As previously noted, the payback period was under 6 months. So thank you very much for joining us today. I'm going to pass this over to handle the Q&A and the wrap up. So.
Awesome. Thank you everyone for joining. We have some questions from the audience. So for Omer, what size company and vertical would be the target market for Cybersixgill?
Yeah, so thanks, Katie, and thank you, Eric and Merit, for great presentations and great report. I get this question a lot. I mean, usually the question that accompanies it is related to maturity graph, or where does a company fits, where does an enterprise fit within a maturity graph in between a very immature cyber posture and a very established one. And I think that once you have some cybersecurity product, whether it is a SIEM or a SOAR or an endpoint protection, you need to have threat intelligence. And that's where we come handy. I mean, if you have a need, if you already understand that you should look at the external, what's beyond your perimeter, probably we could assist you. And that's why our target market is very wide. I mean, we are for sure excel with large enterprises and law enforcement agencies with mature organizations, but we have a lot of customers that are SMBs. We have customers that are MSSPs and consultancies. So the idea is that we like to refer to ourselves as tailor-made for your needs. If you need a feed, we can provide the data via feed. If you need a more established investigative portal because you have threat hunting capabilities or incident responders, we could back you with it. If you need an API because you want to do some data play to check your data against fraud analytics, to check your data against trending and create some broader understandings from the data, we're there to back you up.
Awesome, thank you. Another one from the audience. How is Cybersixgill different compared to some of the other similar solutions in the market, like Cyware or Recorded Future? What is the difference with Cybersixgill?
Great, so another great question that we keep hearing a lot. I think that Eric pointed out to a lot of the differentiators that we have. One of them is the point that we can provide the customer, the prospect, with access to data that they couldn't utilize without us. I mean, the idea that we have a data lake that is or can be accessed any point in time without the need to access the dark and deep web, and that it's stored, and even if some data is being deleted from the dark and deep web or is being sold on the dark and deep web, we would still have it, and we will have it on a real-time basis. That's a very key differentiator that, in my not very objective belief, no one can compete with us today. We're talking about difference in between collecting data in real time with our solution within minutes to hours or days with the rest of the market. And that means that, for example, if you look on initial access brokers, one of the fields that everyone will be discussing because it has a lot of high correlations with ransomware attacks. If you don't catch the incident within the first hour, you'll probably get targeted. And we have a lot of examples across the globe right now. So that means that anyone who is not having a vendor that can provide the data within the first day, the first hours even, just play a game of statistics. Today it's gonna hit you, tomorrow it's gonna hit your neighbor, and that's honestly, as a security practitioner, I wouldn't want to be in that scenario. So that would be advantage number one. The second differentiator, which is also very important, is the automation and the ease of use. So if you look on our data sets and if you look on our integrations, each and every one of our strategic partners has created the integration with them that create a workflow that utilize our data into an automated action. That means, for example, that if we'll provide you with an indicator of a zero-day malware, you'll be able to already block it automatically on your SOAR. You'll be able to detect it automatically on your endpoint protection solution, and you'll be able to then circle back into our portal and do any threat hunting activity or any incident response. And the idea is that you don't have to be with the expertise of a well-established threat hunter. As Eric said, the idea basically is that we'll be able to get you 2 or 3 levels up the maturity level cycle, if that makes sense.
Awesome. Thank you, Omer. We have a question for Merit from the audience. Given everything we have discussed today, how can automation and threat intelligence help bridge the cybersecurity skills shortage? And you're on mute, Merritt.
Automation has to kind of be part of the equation here. As you mentioned, there is a cyber security job shortage. That's not going to end anytime soon. It's a systemic problem that's going to take years to resolve. So in the short term, you do need to look at solutions that can help you get a handle on this. And certainly the sheer increase in the number of threats and the types of intelligence feeds that are out there requires you to have a level of automation, because you can't necessarily, it's not practical to rely on, even if you could hire the people, it's not practical to just throw manpower at this. You do need solutions that can better curate and automate the collection and the dissemination of this intelligence, so you're actually able to maintain pace with the changing and evolving nature of threats, but without causing you to have to go out and hire new people all the time. So that's really where the automation piece comes into play, and that's really one of the bigger benefits you see from deploying a commercial solution to address these kinds of problems.
Wonderful. Awesome. Okay. Another one for Omer. What about an API of dark feed to an MISP instance? Does it exist?
Yes, it does. I would say that think of any source, SIEM, whatever solution that you want to use. We probably have an integration into it, either via API or a pre-built integration. One of the things that we've decided to do 2 years ago, when the hype around sticks and taxi was really boasting, was to parse all of our data into sticks and taxi. And the reason was that first, we believe that frameworks like sticks and taxi should be a standard for all the industry, because it enables us to communicate much faster and it breaks clusters. But more importantly, because then even if a new company, a new amazing startup would emerge tomorrow, we won't need to do integration with it, because the data is already formatted. So yes, we are able to integrate very easily with MISP, as well as with everyone else, Palo Alto Networks products, Cisco products, Microsoft products, CrowdStrike products, Sentinel-1 products, anything that you want.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. One more for Merritt. We've talked about 4 qualities of good threat intelligence: completeness, accuracy, relevance, and timeliness. How do you suggest enterprise should test each of these?
That's a good question. I mean, it's going to be hard to probably test all 4 of those necessarily at once with a single piece of intelligence. So it's going to be a thing over a period of time where you try to look at each of those individual qualities and try to understand. Certainly the timeliness, that may be one of the easier ones to assess, because based on the threat and kind of where that sits relative to your organization, you can figure out if the intelligence is relevant or not, particularly if it's something that hasn't even yet necessarily been seen and reported. Obviously, the relevance is also a little easier to assess, in the sense that the intel will talk about certain systems or type systems that can be targeted, and if those systems are not resident in your environment, then there aren't systems that matter to you, and you can probably ignore them. Accuracy is probably one of the harder ones. There is disinformation that is out there. Some of it's out there deliberately, some of it not. And determining if in fact a given report about a likely attack or threat, that's probably one of the harder ones. And that's where things like an ISAC or other peer groups can be very, very helpful for you to share and collaborate and get input from them to determine if they've seen similar things, if they agree with that. So you're not making your decisions in a vacuum. But those are some ideas about how to do that. And this is going to take time, and you're going to have to kind of continue to apply these criteria to threat intel that you're collecting on an ongoing basis. But those are at least hopefully some starting ideas on how to deal with that.
I would agree to everything that Merritt said, and I would also offer some practical experiment that you could do. I mean, take a time frame, decide on a very specific question, and then ask yourself, how do you vet it? I mean, very much like a research hypothesis, and try to figure out a few ways that you want to test your supplier, your vendor. One could be, for example, how good are they in providing me with or detecting compromised credentials? And I want to know it within the hour that those credentials pop up in dark web. Another one, which is very different, how easy for me it is to profile threat actors. I mean, it looks at both the accuracy of data, comprehensiveness, completeness of data, and relevance of data. And another one could be very naive. What's the magnitude of data that the vendor has? And also, what's the uniqueness of the sources they have in terms of languages, in terms of different use cases, different professions. But you have to have very pinpointed questions, because otherwise you'll get spread quite, or you'll get confused with trying to understand it, because as Merit said, it's a complex issue. And I think that researchers like the one that was presented today by Eric help understand some of those questions that could help you figure out how to compare between vendors.
Awesome. Thank you, Omer. Thank you, Merit. I just want to thank everyone for taking time to join our webinar today. We'd also like to thank Merit and Eric from Forrester for joining us. Please visit cybersixgill.com to learn more. Also, please view the Forrester Total Economic Impact report on the screen. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out at info@cybersixgill.com. We will be providing this recording to you after the webinar, but we look forward to speaking with you further if you have any other questions. But thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.